With Rispulse.
Our listeners, his witty voice has been heard on the air for more than 2 decades. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
Growing up on a farm prepared me for my career. I try to know a little about a lot of things and let the people I interview be the experts. I've always wanted to be on the radio. I'm just happy to do what I enjoy.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Warmer weather means a longer honey-do list. Your county farm bureau can help you stay on top of your project list and save you money along the way. A Farm Bureau membership offer includes discounts on equipment and supplies from Grainger, plus free shipping on all standard Grainger products. Browse thousands of items from landscaping equipment to power tools. Anything you need to get the job done, Grainger has it. Not a Farm Bureau member? Call us at 309-557-2689. or visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
You're listening to RFD Town and Country Partners, connecting you with the food you eat, the Illinois farmers who grow it, and the food-related events, destinations, and lifestyles that make our state great.
Welcome to RFD Town and Country Partners on a Monday on Tax Day. I'm DeLoss Yonke, and we'll head down to Logan County, the Mount Pulaski Courthouse State Historic Site. Barbara Stroud-Barth is back for regular conversation. Barbara, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
How are you? Oh, doing very well, thank you. Good. Just one of 2 remaining courthouses from the 8th Circuit of Illinois. Hopefully most people know what that's all about.
They're still in the same place where they were. There are some other small ones that have been moved from the original site. But this one and the one at Metamora are the only 2 that are still in the same place.
Wow, that's a lot of getting around in the mid-1800s. I mean, that's not exactly next door or even the next county. You know,
no, there were 14 counties in the 8th Judicial Circuit. And they went every spring and every fall to all 14. So that was usually they were gone 3 months if they stayed away the whole time. Most of them didn't, but Abraham Lincoln usually stayed in each town a week and then did other things and got to know people and told stories and learned stories and did some law work, you know.
Wow.
So
that's covered a lot of ground, and I'll be quite curious to hear what some of those cases were. How similar and how different they are, a century and a half later.
Well, a lot of it was civil cases, I think. We actually sent all of our courthouse was only the county seat for 5 years, and all the things after they built the new courthouse in Lincoln, actually 7 years, and then they sent everything to Lincoln, to the new county seat in the new town of Lincoln, and all of it burned in 2 years. So we don't have many records of what happened here. We know a few cases that went on to the Supreme Court, but mostly we lost our stories, us and Postville, the county seat before us in Logan County. So that was a sad thing.
Well, that's one of the things about staying around since 1848.
Right.
Or even before then. I mean, how many things were ravaged by fire between, just by the First World War?
Exactly.
Things that had to be rebuilt maybe even more than once.
Right. And as we speak, Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is burning.
Oh, horrible.
It's very sad.
Absolutely horrible.
I've never been there, but I'm still sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But today actually is the 154th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's death. He was shot on the 14th of April and died at 7:22 the next morning on the 15th of April, 154 years ago.
Wow.
And we have an exhibit at the courthouse this month remembering that. We were able to borrow from Eugene Litterly of Latham, Illinois, a folk art piece of Lincoln's hearse that he created a couple of years ago. And so we have that on display. And then we got out some of the other things that we had on display 4 years ago when we did a lot more to remember the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's death. We have a whole exhibit of pennies. Lincoln's face first appeared on the penny at his 100th birthday in 1909. That was Theodore Roosevelt's idea. But the backs have changed ever since then, so there's lots of different backs, and so there's a display where you can examine those. We also have a display about the making of the hearse that they used in the 150th. They did a whole reenactment of the funeral.
Any chance? So he was attending Our American Cousin, which is the only place I have ever heard about that. I don't know if it exists or anything like that. But,
yes, it's been. They put it on every now and then in Springfield, so the play still exists. I mean, it's a play that they still have copies of it, and they have theater groups have actually put it on in Springfield since I've lived here. I've lived here 12 years, so I never have gone, but I've read about it.
Gotcha.
So, and Booth was an actor, so he knew exactly the time when there would be a lot of noise, laughter, and that's when he shot him, right at that moment.
Yeah, a well-known actor and also sympathetic to the cause of the Confederacy.
Right. And he had heard Lincoln say that eventually he thought that the African-American people would get the vote, and that's what angered him so that he thought he had to kill him.
Wow.
So it was a sad day for us. I think that the whole Reconstruction would have looked different if he had lived.
Sure. I did not even realize April 14, 1865. It's interesting because so much is celebrated about Lincoln's life and his time there, but, this is a very important part of his history, our state's and our nation's history at the same time.
Right. And after he died, they went up on the train. His casket went on the same route that it had when he had gone to Washington from Springfield. It went to many different cities, and the same thing happened. And they had funeral services. Sometimes they took the casket off and had a service in a church. Sometimes it was just right there at the train station. And all along the route, people stood and watched the train go by. So his funeral wasn't held until the 4th of May.
Right, I remember that.
It was almost 3 weeks. Mary didn't come. She was just too distraught, but Robert, the oldest son, was there.
1,700 miles, stopping in 14 different cities for people to gather to offer their last respects.
You're quick to look that up.
I did look that up. Yes, absolutely. Well, thinking back then, I do remember though, because that's why I was surprised to remember that. But it was around that time that President Lincoln had entered the Confederate capital. Jefferson Davis had fled shortly after that, or shortly before that, and Lincoln came in, and so I guess that would have stimulated people's anger, at least one person's anger, enough to do something about it.
Well, of course, Booth was in Washington, but yes, the actual peace treaty was signed at Appomattox on the 9th of April, so it wasn't very many days, you see, and then Lincoln did visit the capital of the Confederacy. And people asked him, well, what should they do about Jefferson Davis when they caught him? Should they execute him, imprison him? He really told stories. He didn't believe that it was going to do anything for the Union to punish all of those people. That's why he told Grant to let the Confederate men have their horses and their donkeys because they could go home and farm again. Lincoln understood that people had to survive, and that the Union would be healthier if we didn't go vengeance or to exact vengeance on people. Except Johnson, his vice president, who came into power shortly, because he died, he wasn't of the same mind.
So that's interesting. So you say that the exhibit is available all month?
All month, yes, all the month of April, and we're open Tuesday through Saturday, noon to 4.
Noon to 4.
So people are welcome. We had a couple from Philadelphia the other day, so people do come from all over. So we're glad to have anyone come and visit.
You're not talking about New Philadelphia in McDonough County. You're talking about actually Philadelphia.
Yes, in Pennsylvania. Right.
How far off from 66 from Route 66 are you?
Well, Route 66. If you're following It would be 15 miles roughly from Elkhart. If you get off Route 66 there at Elkhart, it's 11 miles from Lincoln. So if you follow Route 66 to Lincoln, then it's only 11 miles if you take 121 to come to Mount Pulaski.
Okay. I assume you get people that come off the route on a regular basis, but not necessarily. That's not all the traffic that makes its way to the courthouse.
No, we wish we had more of that traffic. We don't get enough of it, really. I mean, because we're not in most of the ads about Route 66, you know, because we're 15 miles off. So unless they've done some research, you know, they don't necessarily know about us. Some people see the green signs on Interstate 55 and come off for that reason. This couple that was just here from Pennsylvania, they have a passport book from the National Park System, so they knew that they could come here and get a stamp because the whole Lincoln Heritage area has now been added to the National Park Passport System. So this man was very well researched about that, and that's one of the things that brought them here. But they had a good tour, and you know, then went on. They had come from the Macon County Museum, and they were headed for the DeWitt, the home in DeWitt, the famous home, historic home in DeWitt. So, I mean, not in DeWitt and Clinton, in DeWitt County, though, in Clinton. So, yeah, so they had well researched what they were heading for.
Wow, yeah.
It depends, you know. We all different kinds. Some people just happen on it, you know, and then others have come here on purpose.
Sure. Well, hey, we're already out of time, Barbara, but thanks so much. I'm glad you told us about that because it's an important part of our history and still have a couple weeks to come over and see it. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Time always flies with Barbara Strahlen-Barth, Mount Pulaski Courthouse and State Historic Site on RFD, Town and Country Partners.
RFD Radio Network's Jim Taylor connects rural routes for you. You can trust Jim every morning for your overnight markets. He gets up early to help keep farmers on top of their game. Here's a bit about his rural routes.
I have the opportunity to cover something different every day and provide listeners with up-to-date markets, news they need to do their job and be successful, from legislative issues to crop updates and weather, of course.
Be it routes or routes, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Welcome to Jim Crowley Outdoors here on the RFD Radio Network, hooking you up with the information you won't have to hunt for. All right, the guy who always makes me hungry with his great recipes, Matt Cheever from Heartland Outdoors. Matt, you already got my taste buds going, so let's just get into it. Just make me hungry.
Well, Jim, I got a buddy that is from down in Mississippi. His nickname is Mississippi, and he's one of the best cooks I've ever been around. He's a great hunter and small game hunter and fisherman. And as he's gotten older, he's passed along some recipes and some recipes and tricks and tips for us that I think are worth passing along. He goes by the stew that they've made back in the day, and it's kind of an old family recipe, and it's something that's very popular in the South called Brunswick stew. And it's typically been small game, squirrel, coon, possum, a little bit of everything. And now, granted, most of us aren't going to have too many possums or raccoons in the freezer, and I'm included in that batch. We do have a lot of other things in there. A couple of weeks ago, I made a batch of this, and I had a couple of chunkers and pheasant there.
Oh, yeah.
And pulled those out and pulled the backbone out of them and put them on the smoker, smoked them for maybe 45 minutes and wrapped them in foil, and then let the meat kind of fall off the bone. Added in some pulled pork, some andouille sausage. Any kind of meat, basically, you have left in the freezer can go in this. But the key to it is the base, a good base. And this is the base to it's kind of it's an age-old kind of thing too. It's a kind of a trifecta of vegetables: peppers, onions, carrots. Those things are all run through the food processor until they're almost just pureed. Mm-hmm. Throw it into a black cast iron pot, put it on a little heat, dump in about a cup of bourbon, stick of butter, and that's about as unhealthy as it gets. Everything else to that is just vegetables. So, there's a lot of things that I think I had over 60 things in this pot of Brunswick stew. The base, too, is also, it's a tomato-based soup, but it's also cut with chicken broth, so it's not just tomato soup. It's kind of thinner, but it's not, it's not too thin, it's not too thick. Over the course of a day, once the base was made, we slid it into the smoker, and about every 2 hours, you just pour a can of beer in it to loosen it back up a little bit, because it will bind up and get kind of tight. Some people add rice. A lot of people add beans. Some people put potatoes in there. It just depends on what region of the South people are from as to how they make it. But being Northerners up here, throw the wild game in there, get a good base going with the peppers, the onions, the carrots, and let it sit. And you could do it in a turkey pot, but you really want it in cast iron. If you can do it in cast iron, put it on a grill or a pit all afternoon, I promise you, it will be the best thing you've ever eaten.
Well, Matt, thanks a lot as usual. You got everybody's taste buds up in a roar. Fantastic recipe. And, hey, man, we'll look forward to talking with you next week.
Hello, I'm Trooper Teal at the Illinois State Police. Since January 1st, 15 Illinois State Police officers have been hit as a result of failure to reduce speed and move over into the other lane. 2 of those officers sadly lost their lives. April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Be part of the solution. Put your phone down, focus on your drive, pay attention to the road, move over, slow down, just drive.
A message from the Illinois Farm Bureau and the Illinois State Police.
When it comes to social media, Sabrina Berkowitz connects rural routes for you. Sabrina covers a broad range of ag topics, so Farm Bureau members are the first to know about key issues. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up with a grain and livestock farm in my extended family, and today I really enjoy helping people learn how to use social media to advocate for agriculture.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Welcome back to Town and Country Partners Radio. I'm Christina Wilkinson. 'Tis that time of the year when soon-to-be college graduates are on the hunt for their first job in the real world. Job interviews can be stressful for anyone. There are a number of do's and don'ts for job applicants to be aware of. Horace Mann, Director of Talent Acquisitions, Kristen Clauser, says most of today's job applicants start the process on the World Wide Web.
Our interview process really all begins online. Our application process comes through our system that the recruiters receive the resume electronically and review the qualifications. As long as a candidate meets minimum qualifications, they will receive a phone interview with the recruiter. From there, they would be brought on site if they are a good fit for the role that they're interviewing for.
What do you mean by recruiter? Is that a third party that you guys use, or is that someone in-house that is specifically doing that kind of job?
It's in-house. We do not outsource our recruitment. Maybe for some specialized, really high-level leadership positions, we can engage some extra support, but that is rare. So we do all of our recruiting in-house within 48 states.
So where do you post your jobs that if you're looking for specific candidates?
We post primarily our website, social media boards such as LinkedIn. That's a big one, Indeed.com. We also go out to the job fairs, local universities between here and some of our satellite offices, and we have managers attend with us as well. A lot of times we go to the job fairs targeting specific skill sets, and we will talk to candidates in person with those and then invite them on site accordingly.
So if the candidate makes it through the phone interview, then when they meet face-to-face, what advice that you would give to people coming into job interviews?
I would recommend that candidates make sure that they read the job description in advance, or at least run that by the recruiter, make sure they have an opportunity to see the job description, and think about their former experience and how it would relate to what it is that we're requiring someone to do here. And then bring those experiences, and even school experiences if they haven't been in the corporate world. What projects have they worked on that are relevant to what the job is that they're applying for? Maybe it's project management and they've done something like that in school.
What about when you are going over qualifications? I mean, everybody is talking about like social media and the do's and don'ts of social media. Does that play any part in the interview process?
I would tell any candidate, make sure when you're going out into the job, the professional world, that your email address is professional, that you make sure your social media is buttoned up. Not that we go out and check it, but maybe some companies do. Maybe some recruiters do. It's not our practice, but it's just best to make sure that what you have out there as public information is something that you're comfortable with, everything from, the CEO to, external audiences and even friends looking at.
So after they have interviewed you with you face-to-face, what is the protocol afterwards? I mean, as a follow-up, do you have thank yous that are sent to you for taking the time to meet with them? What would be a good thing for a candidate to do?
Absolutely. It does go a long way when candidates take the time to email everyone that spent some time interviewing with them, sharing what their experience was, letting them know that they're very interested in the role and look forward to next steps. That does go a long way. Historically, people would mail in a handwritten note. That is still a nice touch, but it's not required by any means. Paperless is more of the way anymore. And so even just a simple thank you note, appreciated meeting you in person, goes a long way for a candidate and does set them out apart from everyone else.
Well, and speaking of, like you said, everything now is an electronic age. I mean, when I was interviewing for jobs on a regular basis, it was traditional to use actual paper. Mm-hmm. So do you get actual paper resumes from people? And if you do, is that almost like a social no-no, or does it, does that actually set them apart too?
If we receive paper resumes, we do call the applicant up and say we encourage you to apply and send them the link. We have made so much progress with technology that we can't even hire someone unless they have an email address and they're in our system electronically, because everything from our applicant tracking system goes over to payroll. So it is important that you at least have that piece down before you go applying for positions.
Do you have any other things that you'd like to add over something I could have missed, or any advice for candidates out there that are looking for jobs in the corporate industry?
I would just say, especially for someone, coming right out of school, just make sure that you do some market analysis on, what the job pays. So there's not false expectations when it comes to salary or an offer. A lot of times it seems that there's this idea that you're going to graduate and make $60,000. While that could happen depending on your profession, a lot of times you do have to build yourself up, prove yourself in an organization, and then move on that way.
So don't go in expecting to be the president of the company?
Correct. You do have to prove yourself no matter where you go.
Thank you very much, Kristen Clauser, the Director of Talent Acquisitions at Horace Mann, and I wish you good luck wherever you apply. And remember, if you don't get that first job you applied for, to keep trying, maybe expand your search. It took me almost 6 months to get my first job in radio, and then it was only a part-time gig. However, once I started, another job did open at that same station, and it was full-time, and then they hired me for that one. And the rest, they say, is history. For Town and Country Partners Radio, I'm Christina Wilkinson.
Thanks, Christina. Very good tips there. Yes, chances are you're not going to get the first one, so persistence and certainly important there. So appreciate her advice. That was really good stuff. All the folks at Horace Mann there. Later in the week, Trooper Tracy will be in. She's with Illinois State Police District 10 Pasodum. Is well known for their social media work, trying to get the word out about a lot of different issues, including just the notion of get over when you see lights in front of you. 1,404 tickets have been issued as of April 12 this year for folks not obeying Scott's Law. That'd just be one of the topics discussed this week on RFD Town and Country Partners. I'm DeLoss Yankee.